I'm a physicist/author. Ask me to calculate anything. If I gain a kilo of weight here on Earth, how much more will my wife be attracted to me? Assuming you're 80 kilograms and she's 60 kilograms and you're standing 1 meter apart, she'll be attracted to you with an extra 4 times 10 to the negative 9 newtons of force. That makes you about 1.2% more attractive to her. To questions. 1. How many semesters would it take to gather enough pubes from a dormitory floor to make a size large sweater? 2. I think you're great. Can I send you a sweater? Okay, now this is my kind of question. I'll assume 1 centimeter long pubes spaced 2 millimeters apart covering a total area of 20 squared inches. Laid end to end, that gives a total pube length of about 60 meters for each person. At about 10 microns thick with a density of 1 gram per centimeters cubed, you'd have a total mass of about 64 milligram of hair. The mass of a sweater might be 0.3 kilograms. From this, you can see that you'd need about 5,000 people or roughly 100 dorm floors assuming 50 people per floor. If only for shock value, yes, I'd love a sweater. Is it more dangerous to own and regularly ride a motorcycle or regularly use cocaine? A quick web search shows that in the US, about 4,000 cocaine-related deaths occur each year. There is a similar number of motorcycle-related deaths. The fraction of cocaine users over the age of 12 is about 0.7%. There are about 6 million motorcycle riders in a US population of 300 million, meaning that roughly 2% of Americans are motorcycle riders. Given a similar number of deaths, but about 3 times as many riders as cocaine users, it's likely that cocaine use is more dangerous. The fraction of cocaine users over the age of 12 is about 0.7%. That can't be true. 99.3% of all cocaine users in US are under 12 years old. How many hot pockets would you need to burn to release the amount of energy released by a standard US issue hand grenade? I'm going to assume the source below is correct. Not necessarily a safe assumption. It lists about 800 kilojoule of energy for the grenade. A hot pocket has about 300 calories. A calorie is just another unit of energy. 300 calories equal to about 1 kilojoule of energy. Food calories are 1000 times bigger than the physics calorie. You'd need about 800 hot pockets to equal 1 hand grenade. If this number is surprisingly low, remember you have to considerate all the energy of a grenade is released instantly, whereas it takes a while to burn all the hot pockets. What is the kinetic energy of a growing fingernail? I'll assume the fingernail has a thickness of 0.2 mm and an area of 1 cm squared. If it's about as dense as water, then this would make its mass 20 mg. My nails grow about 2 mm per week. Using these, you can estimate a kinetic energy of 10 to the negative 22 joules. How large would the wings of a Pegasus have to be to allow a horse to actually fly? We need to consider 2 things here, wing area and wing flapping rate. I did a similar problem for Mothra's wingspan. Horses weigh about 500 kilograms, which gives a downward gravitational force of about 5,000 Newton. If you assume her wings flap 2 meters down and do so once every second, she'd need wings that were about 1,000 meters squared in area. A 2 meter wide wing would need to be about 5 football fields long. How many house cats would it take to crush an average man? Just one, when it gets hit by a car and he can never smile again. Let's assume 2,000 kilograms, roughly the mass of a car, can crush a man. If your cat weighs 5 kilograms, it would take 400 cats to crush a man. Hopefully this one gets an answer. If I'm a poor college student trying to donate blood/plasma/sperm for food money, how much should I make per year if I attend the maximum times? I hate using Yahoo Answers, notoriously unreliable, but here goes. Assuming the source below to be accurate, you can make up to $50 per for blood/plasma donations. Let's assume you donate once per month. I've also seen sperm donation banks that pay up to $1,000 per month, assuming you've got that kind of genes they're looking for. The catch is you can't masturbate or have any other type of sex. If you meet all the criteria, you've got yourself about $17,000 per year. Most of that comes from the sperm. The last physicist I asked this question got really mad at me. Fortunately you have the option to just ignore it, and I won't blame you one bit. If the rotation of the earth were to slow down, would I weigh more or less? Technically, you would weigh the same, since weight is just related to the gravitational force. Physically, if you stepped on a scale you would see a larger number, since it's like the earth is trying to throw you less. It's kind of like a fat kid being thrown off a merry-go-round. The faster it spins, the more there appears to be a force pushing you away from the center. If I bend over at 90 degrees, facing north, and pass wind on 1st of January 2012 at midday at Alice Springs, Australia, how will the orbit of Neptune be affected? Assume average fart density, speed. Depends how tight your pants are, but it will surely affect Uranus. Neptune is probably not going to be affected very much, since the fart gas won't make it out of the atmosphere. The land mass of Earth on the other hand will gain a small amount of angular momentum. In backpacking, I estimated that continuous flatulence will produce a force of about 0.01 Newton. It turns out this would not significantly help you in a weightlifting meet. Bending over at 90 degrees, that will give the Earth a torque 64 Newton kilometers. For a 3-second fart, the length of a day would change by 10 to the negative 31%. How long would it take to walk on every slab of concrete pavement in Manhattan at a normal walking pace? There's a question of path here, which I'll ignore for simplicity. Let's just say you dug up every slab of concrete pavement and lined them up, so you don't have to retrace steps. Manhattan is about 34 square miles. A city block is about 800 meters around and 40,000 meters squared in area. That gives about 2,000 city blocks for a total of 1,600 kilometers of concrete blocks to walk on. Walking non-stop at a speed of 1 meter per second, it would take about 19 days to hit every slab. Do you have any thoughts on the correlation between milk and boys in the yard? It depends on whether or not the milk is shaking, and whether or not it's mine. If I raised a black widow spider to be 200 pounds, what would its dimensions be? Leg length, body size. Horrifying. The answer is horrifying. He wouldn't be able to walk at this size, but you can still figure out the dimensions. A black widow weighs about 1 gram. In this example, you've increased his mass by a factor of 90,000. However, his weight grows as his length cubed, which means that his length would only increase by a factor of 90,000 to the 1/3 equals 44. If his legs were 1 centimeter long before, they'd now be about 1.5 feet long. His 1.5 inches body is now about 1.7 meters long. How much gas must a person expel to propel themselves upwards 3 inches? Are we talking fart power? If so, it depends on the speed. In backpacking, I estimated that a sustained fart produces about 0.01 N of force upward. To have this lift you, you'd need the amount of gas to be about 90,000 times larger. Assuming a 10 mg normal fart, you get this by assuming a 10 centimeters cubed fart with the same density as air. You'd need a fart that contained about 1 kilogram of air. That's almost a bathtub worth of fart air. How do you calculate how much water is on Earth? Also, how do you calculate how many total people have ever lived on the Earth? Since most of the water is in the ocean, I would take the average ocean depth, which can be measured fairly reliably, and multiply by the area of the oceans. According to Wikipedia, the average ocean depth is 3790 meters. The fraction of Earth's surface covered by water is about 70%, which would give a total ocean area of about 5 times 1014 square kilometers. This means there's about 2 times 1021 meter cubed of water on the Earth. The number of people who have ever lived is tricky because of population growth. I did a simple estimate of this a while back. Louis C.K. does a bit where he said, out of all the people that ever were, almost all of them are dead. It turns out, that's not at all true. My dad once got suspended from school for being a smartass and asking this question. But now I've always wanted to know the answer. How many monkeys broke their arm in Africa last year? Let's assume monkeys are like humans. If I ask my friends, I'm willing to bet about 10% of them have broken their arms at some point in their, on average, 30 years on the planet. This gives a probability of 1 out of 300 of breaking your arm in any given year. There are roughly 300k chimps in Africa. Let's guess there are 100 monkey species with similar populations. That gives 100,000 broken monkey arms. What would happen if an asteroid larger than the size of Earth blocked sunlight for 24 hours? I got a similar question for a talk I gave at a skeptics meeting. If the sun disappeared, how quickly would the temperature drop on Earth? The temperature of the Earth would drop about 20 degrees. It's basically what happens at night time anyway. How many bottles of 591 milliliters Pepsi would it take to build the CN Tower, assuming that the whole inside of the tower is filled completely with bottles as well? The CN Tower is 553 meters high. From pictures, its width looks maybe 1/20th its height. That's roughly 400,000 meter cubed in total, so you'd need roughly 700 million bottles. Mitzvah/wedding DJ here. How much of my life was been spent listening to I Got a Feeling by the Black Eyed Peas? I'd say I work 90% of the weekends in a year with occasional doubles or triples strewn about. Oh man. I'm so sorry. No one should be forced into the hell that is listening to that song every day. Let's say you do 5 events per week on average. That's about 250 gigs per year and about 15,000 over the course of a lifetime. I Got a Feeling is about 4.5 minutes long. If you played it once per event, you'd have listened to about 47 days of it. How do you calculate the weight of one's head without decapitation? No decapitation? Where's your sense of adventure, soldier? A human head is roughly spherical with a density close to that of water. Assuming a 6-inch sphere, you'd have mass of about 14 kilograms. Okay, if I were to make a suit out of used condoms, how many would I need? I'm 5'7". A used condom is about 1 foot long and 1.5 inches wide. If you're 5'7" with a 35-inch waist, you'd need about 130 used condoms or roughly 1/3 of a good year. How fast do you have to throw a burrito so it catches on fire? Ooh, me gusta. I'm gonna guess a burrito has a similar flash point, that is the temperature at which it ignites, to wood, which would put it around 300 degrees Celsius, 570 Kelvin. There's a lot of water in food, so I'll assume they have similar heat capacities, 4 joule per gram Kelvin. As such, a 0.5 kilograms burrito would need to gain 500 kilojoule of heat energy to ignite. The energy lost due to friction for a burrito will be about the same magnitude as that for a baseball. I'm assuming all the energy lost to friction goes into heating the burrito. Numerical assumptions. Drag coefficient 0.3, area 9 squared inches, air density 1.2 kilograms per meter squared. Burrito catches on fire in 1 second. This will be about 0.0003 kilograms second per meter times velocity cubed. This gives about 1000 meter per second. So roughly 3 times the speed of a 9mm bullet fired out of a handgun. Or exactly the speed of a burrito fired out of a burrito gun. Try to be precise please.